It's very good to be here. As Father Tim said, my name's Father Alex. I won't bother you with the last name because very complicated. I don't want you biting your tongues this morning. Yesterday was my first time to visit this part of the country, and I was wowed. The words of the song by John Denver came alive to me. Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains. It's almost heaven. I'm coming to this beautiful church with a liturgy that looks like papal. Friends, it is almost heaven. And I feel at home, as that song says, as I passed through the country roads here, taking me home to a place where I belong. I'm from Uganda. Some of you, this is the first time you're hearing that there is such a place called Uganda. Uganda is a little country in East Africa. It's at the border with Kenya, where Deacon James comes from. Uganda received the Catholic faith not so long ago. The first Catholic missionaries arrived in 1879. Those were the first Catholic missionaries that came to Uganda. The faith took root to the extent that in 5 years of the faith in Uganda, the faith there produced 22 martyrs of the Holy Catholic Church, St. Charles Luanga and his companions. Uganda was colonized by the British, and we only got independence in 1962. Uganda has passed through lots of challenges. Actually, those of you who are old enough, who were of reason in the 70s, you must have heard about a dictator called Idi Amin. That's a product of Uganda. We have never had a peaceful transfer of power from one president to the next since independence. The president that we have currently took power by force of arms in 1986, and he is still the president up to today. Talk of democracy. We have passed through civil wars because of the many tribes that are there. Brothers and sisters, I come here today as a missionary. You must have heard in the last few weeks that a missionary is coming. Yes, I am a missionary. But you know what? All of us are missionaries. The Second Vatican Council defines the church as missionary by nature. The church is missionary by nature. It is the very essence of the church to be missionary. That means all of us are missionaries. Therefore, my task as a fellow missionary is to reignite in our hearts that fire, the fire from within, the fire that Jesus speaks about. And he says, I have come to set fire on earth, and how I wish it were ablaze already. That fire of the Spirit that we received at our baptism, at our confirmation, that fire that was in the belly of the prophet Jeremiah that enabled him to do things that ordinarily somebody would be afraid of. That fire that Pope Francis calls upon us as church today to embrace, a fire that takes us out. He calls it to the peripheries, to the lost, to the last, and to the least. And speaking of fire, I want to share with you some specks of fire that are there in the church in Africa. And specifically, I will speak about my little rural diocese in the eastern part of Uganda called Sorode. Our diocese is relatively very young. It was established 40 years ago. And we've just had our third bishop, who is the youngest bishop in Uganda. He became bishop at 47 years. When the diocese started, we had almost 12 or 13 local indigenous clergy. But as we speak right now, there are over 70 priests, indigenous priests in our diocese. We had about 11 parishes 40 years ago, but as we speak, we have almost 60-something parishes. Last year alone, the bishop started 26 new parishes in different villages. In 2019, just when we got our new bishop, we had in our little diocese 33,000 infant baptisms. My first Mass at ordination 26 years ago, I baptized 72 babies. This morning I saw Deacon James was baptizing one. He still has 71 to go to catch up with me for my first Mass. The bishop, in his first 6 months of being bishop, confirmed 31,000 people into the Catholic faith. Right now, we have about 68 major seminarians, those who are training to be priests. We have a high school seminary. I joined a high school seminary when I was 13 in 7th grade. In our high school seminary right now, we have 300 young men who are discerning their vocation to the priesthood. Now, that's fire. But you know, with growth also come problems. With growth also come challenges. The church in Africa, and I address myself to our Diocese of Sorode, works in a rural population that is really poor. Their livelihood is 90% agricultural. So we grow what we eat, and we eat what we grow. When I first came to the United States, and I went through aisles of milk, I wanted milk, 2% milk, 1% milk, 25% milk, 50% milk. I said, just give me milk. I don't care the percentage. Big choices. There, you want to eat, you go to the garden, you pick what you need to eat. That's our store, nature. But in the last years, the weather has not been favorable. When people speak about climate change and its impact on people, there in our villages, we are really experiencing it. The crop for this year literally failed because the rain patterns have completely changed from the time I was a kid. That's why when the church came to Africa, it was not just only saving the souls, it was also educating the minds. And they built schools. More than half the schools in Uganda and in our diocese are run by the church. And not only educating the mind, but also taking care of the body. And so in every parish, you'll find a school, but also you'll find a health center where people come at least to get some basic medical care, because the population is poor. I spoke about last year the bishop erecting 26 new parishes. Some of them have just either grass-thatched church, small church, or no church at all. Bishop says, this village, that's now a parish, go figure it out. So some churches are literally under trees. My first mass was under trees. It was only this year, with the help of friends, that we completed our little village church. And so we have that problem. We have still problems of health care. People are still dying of preventable diseases like malaria because they cannot afford the therapy. Out of 1,000 women, pregnant women, statistics tell us that 16% of them, 16 women out of 1,000, will die due to complications of childbirth just because they cannot access proper medical care for them to safely give birth. You might say, now what can I do? You might say, there are too many problems. I don't have much. I can't change things in the world. Who am I? I tell you, being a missionary, you can always do something. Jesus said he has come to set fire. A little flame of fire within can cause a big fire. There are three things that I would like to share with you that can help us to participate in mission. Number one is to pray. Number one is to pray. Number two is to go. Number two is to. Number three is to give. Number three is to. Number one, pray. Please pray for the mission. Pray for your brothers and sisters. Pray that the faith continues to grow. If you have a roof over your head, you have food on your table, and a cloth on your back, give thanks to God. But remember to pray for those who are less fortunate. If you can turn up in the morning in this beautiful church, remember that there are those who are exposed to the elements as they worship one true God. So pray. Number two was go. Every year we organize mission trips. Come to Uganda. Come visit us. Come see how we worship. Come and experience the different ways through which our brothers and sisters live Every year we have 5 to 10 missionaries who come. Everyone can have something to do there. We can use your skills, your knowledge, or even just for you to experience the faith there. Come see me. Talk Father Tim, Deacon James. We can connect and will be more than welcome to visit. The one thing I will promise is this: I want to feed you to the lions. Because part of the trip is to go on safari, but I won't feed you to the lions. Number 1 was to? Number 2? Number 3? Give. You know what Jesus said? Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there in their midst. But today I'll twist it a little bit. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, I take a collection. So there will be a second collection for the mission in Uganda. And as you do that, I want you to do it prayerfully. And look, everything counts. If you give $1, that can feed a kid for 1 day. If you save $1 a day for 1 year, we can keep a kid at school. If you give $5, you will save a kid from dying of malaria. Or if you give 50, you might save a woman from childbirth, complications due to childbirth. Okay, 100, that's great, that's a lot. That will give us 10 bags of cement, at least we'll never build a church like this, forget, that one we can't. We don't even envy, but at least put some walls and a roof where people can pray, or a rectory, or a school, or a health center. Okay, some people might say, I can even give more. If you give $1,000, you know what it's going to do? It will provide water in an entire village of about 1,500 people. Safe drinking water. There are people who still do not have access to clean water, who still have to go miles, who go to the river to get the water that they drink. Dear brothers and sisters, on behalf of my bishop, Bishop Joseph, on behalf of my brothers and sisters, the men and women and children of Uganda, on behalf of the entire community of Soroti Catholic Diocese, we want to thank you for welcoming us to share with you this work of the mission. We want to thank you for your generosity and for your participation in the mission. And may God bless you and reward you generously. Amen.